Your conference will begin momentarily. Please continue to hold. Your conference will begin momentarily. Please continue to hold. Your conference will begin momentarily. Please continue to hold.
time, you will be removed from the queue. When you're called on to speak, please be prepared to state the item numbers that you wish to speak on. If you also want to provide general public comment, please note that the line will now be silent until the meeting begins. Do not hang up, and stand by until you're called on to speak.
Sound check, Sebastian Shepherd. Thank you.
Thank you. The magic hour has arrived. 9:30, so good morning, everyone. Want to welcome you to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, June the 8th, 2021. Our meeting today is being held remotely due to the current public health crisis to protect the health of all. I will now take roll call to confirm attendance. Please unmute your mic and respond when your name is called. Supervisor Mitchell.
Good morning, President.
Supervisor Kuehl.
Here.
Supervisor Hahn.
I'm here.
Supervisor Barger.
Here.
Deja Davenport, Chief Executive Officer.
Present.
Rodrigo Castro Silva, County Council.
Here.
Celia Zavala, Executive Officer of the Board.
Here.
As indicated on the posted agenda, we will be taking telephonic public comments during today's meeting. The Executive Office of the Board received over 1,000 written public comments for today's meeting, and as those written comments were received, all of them were available to the supervisors for their consideration, consistent with the Brown Act's requirements. We'll continue to receive written public comments throughout the meeting, which will become part of the official record. Madam Executive Officer, please call the agenda.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Board. Today's agenda will begin on page 2, Set Matter, 10:30 a.m. Item S1 is a discussion of the public health order related to COVID-19. This item will be held for discussion. On page 3, Special Districts Agenda. This is the agenda for the Sanitation District number 27 and the New Hall Ranch Sanitation District. On page 4, this is the agenda for the Los Angeles County Development Authority. On item 3D is the recommendation to authorize the issuance of the tax-exempt and taxable multifamily housing revenue note by the Los Angeles County Development Authority in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $40 million to finance the construction of the Corazon de Valle project, a 90-unit multifamily housing development to be located in the city of Los Angeles. On page 9, this is the agenda for the Regional Parks and Open Space Districts. On page 10, Consent Calendar, Board of Supervisors, items 1 through 25. On item 1, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 2, Supervisor Mitchell requests that this item be held. This includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 5, Supervisor Kuehl requests that this item be held. On item 6, Supervisor Hahn requests that this item be held. On item 7, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 11, Supervisor Barger requests that this item be held. On item 12, Supervisor Barger, Supervisor Mitchell requests that this item be held. On item 13, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 17, Supervisor Barger requests that this item be continued 2 weeks to June 22nd, 2021. On item 18, Supervisor Solis requests that this item be held. On item 21, Supervisor Solis requests that this item be held. This includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 22, this includes a revision as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On page 28, Administrative Matters, items 26 through 83. On item 26, Supervisor Mitchell requests that this item be held. On item 40, the Director of Mental Health requests that this item be continued 2 weeks to June 22nd, 2021, as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 54, Supervisor Mitchell requests that this item be continued 2 weeks to June 22nd, 2021. On item 67, Supervisor Mitchell requests this item be continued 2 weeks to June 22nd, 2021. On item 68 and item 69, Supervisor Mitchell requests that these items be held. On page 59, this includes miscellaneous additions to the agenda, which were posted more than 72 hours in advance of the meeting, as indicated on the supplemental agenda. On item 81, Supervisor Salim's request for this item be held. The request for continuances through 81H are before you.
Moved by Supervisor Mitchell, seconded by Supervisor Barber to approve these items. That will be the ordinance.
On page 60, ordinance for introduction. On page 62, notice of closed session. That completes the reading of the agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll now take public comments for all agenda items. Madam Executive Officer, please read the call-in information that was also provided on the agenda and explain the speaking rules to those members of the public who are calling in to address the board.
As indicated on the agenda, members of the public wishing to offer public comment should call 877-226-8163 and use participant code number 133-6503. To repeat, please call 877-226-8163 and use participant code number 133-6503. Do not call that number if you only want to listen to the meeting. To listen only, please call 877-873-8017 and follow the instructions. To members of the public calling in, when it's your turn to speak, please state your name and which agenda items you wish to speak on. You have 1 minute to speak on one agenda item or 2 minutes to speak on 2 or more agenda items. In addition, those who would like to address the board with general public comment will be provided 1 additional minute for a maximum total up to 3 minutes. We will allocate up to 60 minutes for public comment on all of the items. If there are no speakers waiting before 60 minutes have lapsed, we will close public comment. We will continue to accept all written comments that come in during the meeting, which will become part of the record. When speaking on an agenda item, we must be on topic. Our goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. If you're not speaking on a topic, or if we cannot tell if you're speaking on an agenda item, you will get 1 warning from County Council or the Chair. If you do not immediately or clearly get on topic, or if you stray off topic again, you will forfeit the rest of your time and the Chair will move to the next speaker. Please note, if you're also listening to the board meeting on a computer or speakerphone, you will need to turn down the volume on those devices as soon as the moderator calls on you. If you do not turn down the volume, there will be an echo. Moderator, may we have the first speaker, please?
As a reminder, to address the board, if you've not already done so, please press 1, then 0 at this time. Do not press 1, then 0 a second time, or you will be removed from the queue.
We will now hear the Spanish interpretation of this reminder.
Como recordatorio, para dirigirse a la Junta, si aún no la ha hecho, presione 1 y luego 0 en este momento. No presione 1 y 0 por segunda vez o será eliminado de la fila. Gracias.
Thank you. May we have the first speaker, please?
Our first participant is Gary Hardy. Please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address them general public comment. May begin.
Good morning. My name is Gary Hardy, Board Madam Chair, and members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm a member of the Linwood Unified School District Board of Education and a resident of District 2. I join you today to speak in support of item number 2, the motion to strengthen oversight of school law enforcement service and general public comment. In Linwood, our guiding question as we examine decisions we make on behalf of our students and their families is this right for kids? Both the COVID-19 pandemic and the killing of George Floyd prompted us to re-examine our services, resources, and school climate through that lens and begin to reimagine the way in which we provide an educational experience that meets the needs of our community. Until last year, our district had a contract with the Los Angeles Sheriff Department that assigned 2 deputies to support our schools. One of the issues we had with this contract was the cost, as the cost for these 2 deputies was $350,000. Additionally, we had little to no oversight with respect to the level of service provided to our schools and how our students were treated, meaning these practices that the deputies undertook were often not in alignment with our practices as an educational institution. Bearing this in mind and using our guiding question, we made the decision that this partnership was just not right for our students, and we decided to not renew our contract. Not renewing this contract meant that we could fund restorative and trauma-informed practices that we know are best for our students and their families and by our staff by extension. This meant academic counselors for middle school students and new college counselors for high schools. This meant an additional investment in our Ready to Learn initiative, which seeks to remove barriers to student success in Linwood schools, maintained by a robust student service department and school health collaborative. This meant 24/7 mental health and tutoring hotlines made available to all students and the entire Linwood community. And this meant additional investment in early education, expanding our services to begin serving students at birth. And this meant that kindergarten students in Linwood had a college savings plan in their name, making them 7 times more likely to pursue a college education. In Linwood, we strive to achieve educational excellence for all students through equity, access, and justice. And our contract with LASD existed in contrast to those goals, which ultimately prompted us to decide against renewal. Police on school campuses are not the alternatives to incarceration that our students need, nor are they a way to close off the school to prison pipeline. A deeper investment in vital services, resources, and educational outcomes are. While police on campus
Your time has expired. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Henry Perez, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Yes, I'm here to speak for item 81E. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Henry Perez. I'm a resident of LA County in District 1, and I am also the Associate Director of Intercity Struggle. I am here speaking in support of item 81E. I'd like to begin by thanking Supervisor Solis for her leadership in bringing forth a solution to the crisis before our county, which is the over 200,000 tenants that are behind on their rent debt due to the impact of COVID-19. Communities like East LA, South LA, and the San Fernando Valley were ravaged by COVID-19. Thousands of residents lost jobs or substantial income during this pandemic. This has impacted their ability to pay rent, and they now bear thousands of dollars of rent debt. Current state and local rent assistance programs are not enough. They are not only not covering everyone with COVID-related rent debt, but for a variety of reasons, they are also inaccessible to too many tenants in LA County. Hundreds of thousands of residents are on the brink of becoming houseless. The only thing protecting them right now are the current eviction moratoriums. But what will happen when those are lifted? If bold action is not taken, we will see thousands of families evicted from their homes and put out into the streets, exacerbating the houseless crisis that this county already has. Don't wait for the state to take action. We ask you to please pass item 81E now and find a way to eliminate the rent debt burden that our most vulnerable families are facing at this time. Bold action is needed.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Adolfo Guzman Lopez, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Adolfo Guzman Lopez. I'm a reporter at Southern California Public Radio based in Pasadena. I work out of the downtown LA Bureau on 2nd and Figueroa, but I'm not representing the station in any capacity today. I'm here to speak on item number 18 and specifically in support of the Society of Professional Journalists' opposition to the amendment that places limits on journalists to do our job out in the field. When I learned about those proposed limits, I immediately thought of my reporting on Sunday, May 31st, 2020. On that day, I was assigned to cover the George Floyd protests in Long Beach. I arrived at 5 o'clock. At 30 Pine Streets, crowds were growing. Police had declared an unlawful assembly. The police line pushed protesters to the intersection. I was assigned to inform the public about the local protests and what turned out to be
Please continue.
several times, describing what the protesters were saying, the general demographics of the crowd, and when looting happened, I described that and the police action against the people breaking into stores. I was moving about with the people, and I was keeping an eye on the part of the protest where the protesters were confronting the police. I was taking precautions. My LA County Sheriff's press credential was around my neck. Having to check with a police official to get permission about where to be would have slowed and limited my work and may have kept me from effectively informing the public about a news event that was important for our communities and our nation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
And as a reminder to address the board, if you've not already done so, please press 1 then 0 at this time. And do not press 1 then 0 a second time, or you will be removed queue. Julie Mitchell, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today. Whether you'll address on general public comment, you may begin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Julie Mitchell, and I'm the Superintendent of Schools for the Roland Unified School District, and I'm speaking on agenda item number 2 and agenda item number 69. I respectfully request a no vote on agenda item number 2. While the basis of concern regarding police or law enforcement is understood, the study quoted and connected with this issue and with this item is incomplete and has flaws as noted by the author. Additionally, if item number 2 is approved, it removes the delegate authority and requires all Los Angeles County School Districts to seek separate individual approval from the Board of Supervisors on having a campus school resource officer serve students. This decision should be at the sole discretion of the locally elected school board members. Lastly, the motion does not consider the positive relationship and work between schools and law enforcement. It is a collective effort to serve the needs of our students, our schools, and our communities. In the Roland Unified School District, we work collaboratively with the Sheriff's Department in the selection of a school resource officer so that that particular individual is able to complement and meet the needs of our students and serve the overall mission of our school district. The school, in collaboration with law enforcement, is able to support the students socially, emotionally, academically, and safely. School safety is essential for students to thrive. In the presence of a carefully selected school resource support officer can assist in this process. I strongly urge a no vote on item number 2 and a yes vote on item number 69 and allow local school boards to govern locally for the students they are directly elected to serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Ruby Rivera, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruby Rivera. I am a tenant of District 2 and the Director of Community Organizing for Inner City Struggle in District 1. I am speaking in support of item 81E. I want to first appreciate the bold leadership of Board Chair Ida Solis for uplifting the concerns of tenants and taking bold action through introduction of a motion to study county acquisition of low-income residential tenant rental debt, which is aligned with the debt-free recovery platform to keep LA housed. The state rental relief programs have left many tenants behind because applications are complicated and landlords have all the power. Thousands of tenants still have debt, will continue to accrue debt, and will have to live with the long-lasting impacts of this economic crisis. I support item 81E and I urge the board to vote yes on this item and to conduct a feasibility study to cease the rental debt. In LA County, the rent debt is nearing $1 billion. And LA County cannot afford to wait on the state to take action. We need to take action now through this motion to address this crisis and to send a message to Sacramento that we need innovative solutions that take tenants into account and that are coming from the tenants. And again, I want to thank Supervisor Ida Solis for really pushing forth this bold vision. And I urge the
May we have the next speaker, please?
Genevieve Coverall, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Yes, good morning, Board of Supervisors, Dr. Untitled Chapter. I will speak to items 39, 41, 67, and 81E. On item 39, I am very concerned about the complaint of Securitas. I also had a review look at it to see what's really going on and how come it was a mistake done in the calculation and not taking over. On item 41, I am in favor, but I am very concerned because the therapeutic transport has been on agenda forever and talked about, but not implemented really the way it should be. On item 67, the return of enhancement is not as clear as I would like to see it, and also it shouldn't be a receiving card. It should really be done by your board on item 81E about the renters. I'm totally in favor of it. The board of supervisors have done the basic most for the renter and the owner, so I think that they will be fair exchange. Anyway, I hope you reopen soon. I am really missing seeing you in person, and see you soon. Have a good week. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
And as a reminder, to address the board, if you've not already done so, please press 1 then 0 at this time. Do not press 1 then 0 a second time, or you will be removed from the queue. Ralph Eschik, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. And begin.
Good morning, Chairman Solis and Honorable Supervisors. My name is Ralph Peschik. I'm a resident of the 1st District, and today I have general items to address in items 2 and 69. As a resident of the 1st District, I also speak to you today in my capacity as the Chief Business and Financial Officer of the William S. Hart Union High School District, which resides in the 5th District. Good to hear your voice this morning, Supervisor Barger. 2 of the items listed for your consideration on today's agenda, items 2 and 69, have the potential to impact students, staff, and communities, not only in the Santa Clarita Valley, and specifically William S. Hart Union High School District, but across LA County. As the most popular
Please continue.
a diverse population with distinct embedded communities. District 1, my own home district, is a prime example of wonderfully unique diversity of Los Angeles, encompassing not only Silver Lake, but downtown Lincoln Heights, Montebello, and Pomona, and many more wonderful communities. But each of those communities has unique strengths and challenges in supporting the needs of its constituents. As an educator, I realize the educational and social and emotional support systems our locally elected Board of Trustees and staff develop need to reflect the needs of our students and community. Those diverse and unique needs. Deputies working as school resource officers are a part of our educational community in Santa Clarita. That is not a figurative statement, but a literal one. Unlike my honored friend in Linwood, our experiences with school resource deputies have demonstrated that they engage with students in a supportive and positive manner, thereby enhancing the students' perception of their school as a safe and supportive environment. In our case, over the last year, we've had major incidences where our school resource officers have been critical in supporting not only our schools, our students, but our community. Unfortunately, item 2 appears to have been drafted without consideration for the role locally elected officials play in determining how to address the needs of their constituents and community. Additionally, timelines, demands for data, and requirements that individual school districts petition the Board of Supervisors on an individual basis annually appear to reflect an implicit bias towards the Sheriff's Department and implementation of onerous and punitive renewal process for districts electing, based on local decisions, to partner with LA County Sheriff's Department and the county for the
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker?
Carmina Calderon, please state the regular agenda items you're addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Carmina Calderon, and I support item 81E to conduct a feasibility study to seize the net debt. As organizers, we have seen the duress of our community members while they are faced with the pandemic. Most of all, in the stress of keeping a roof over their head, while also navigating an occurring insurmountable debt that communities cannot afford to pay back. Rent relief is good, as the established programs have been severely inaccessible to our community. In LA County, approximately 218,000 households are behind on rent, with an estimated total rent debt nearing $1 billion. The average estimated rent debt per household is close to LA County cannot afford to wait on the state. Our communities can no longer wait. We need to take unprecedented action to address this unprecedented crisis and maximize the federal dollars to support those really in need, tenants and small landlords. This report is the first step to ensure all of us can recover from the crisis. I want to thank Supervisors for their leadership and urge the board to support these motions and look to debt-free recovery to keep LA housed. Thank you.
May we have the next speaker, please?
Martin, floor. Please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Martin Plord, and I'm the Superintendent of the Whittier Union High School District, which resides in portions of Supervisorial District 1 and 4. I'm speaking regarding items 2 and 69 on today's agenda. The point I would like to make is that the vast majority of school districts served by SRDs are small to medium-sized districts governed by Board of Trustees who live in those communities and know their community members and students well. It is these boards of trustee, like the one in Whittier Union, who regularly review the use of our deputies on campus and act in the best interest of our students. We appreciate item 69 today and urge the Board of Supervisors to approve extending the contracts with our districts through June of 2022. However, item 2 on today's agenda suggests that our local governing boards are not paying attention to the concerns raised, which simply isn't the case. The use of SRDs on school campuses are clearly an issue that local school boards should be allowed to decide for their own districts. Our local governing boards are keeping watch and take action when necessary. We appreciate that Linwood Unified made their own decision based on bad experiences with SRDs, but their experience is not what we experience in Whittier Union. The reality is, by having SRDs on our campuses, they know our expectations and cultures with how we want them to be involved in the positive ways with our students. They offer our students, families, and community a sense of safety and build strong, positive relationships with our students. They are a valuable resource to school districts, and our schools would be worse off if decisions about SRDs were taken out of the hands of our locally elected governing boards. I would respectfully ask the Board of Supervisors to trust their fellow officially elected boards of trustees to make their own decisions regarding the use of SRDs on our campuses and vote no on item 2. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Eric, present. You state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Thank you. It's Eric Previn. I'll give a little comment on 2 and 69, as well as 39, 18, 81E, and I'll give a general public comment as well. Is that confirmed?
Thank you. Yes, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please begin.
Okay, thank you. First of all, one idea for the school, sheriffs at school, this is a tough issue, and the gentleman who just spoke makes a reasonable point that, you know, the people who are very close to the immediate situation should be making that decision. But I also note on your agenda you have an item about private security, where you're throwing down $33 million to extend some private security contracts with Universal Protection Services LP, doing business as Allied Universal Security Services. You know, this is for DPSS locations, but the county is engaged in this activity all over the place. It's called outsourcing. And the reason why we do it, even though it's in contravention of one of the board's most principal values, that people should have reasonable jobs, I think that by hiring private security guards who work for companies that make a lot of money and the employees make a little money, we create further wealth poverty division. And I know that you've been fighting to reduce that, so I would ask you to, I remember when Han and Solis and even Kuehl came in fresh-faced and eager and thought, you know, we could take some of these private contracts and put good county employees to work, but that hasn't happened. So that's I mean, obviously some of that has happened, but let's get back on point. Supporting existing freedoms. Well, this was a
Please continue. Mr. Pepin, are you still there? Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Leslie Montoya, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Leslie Montoya. I am a resident in District 1, and I support the debt-free recovery platform to keep LA housed, and I support item 81E. The state rental relief programs have left many tenants behind because applications are complicated and landlords have all the power. Thousands of tenants still have debt, will continue to accrue debt, and will have to live with the long-lasting impacts of this economic crisis. I support item 81E to conduct a feasibility study to seize the rent debt. In LA County, approximately 218,028 households are behind on rent, with an estimated total rent debt nearing $1 billion. The average estimated rent debt per household is close to $7,000. LA County can't afford to wait on the state. We need to take unprecedented action to address this unprecedented crisis and maximize federal dollars to support those really in need, tenants and small landlords. This report is the first step to ensure all of us can recover from this crisis. I urge the board to support this motion and commit to a debt-free recovery to keep LA housed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. President, it appears you were cut off earlier. If you wish to continue to address the board, please call back. Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Gabriela Lentov, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
I want to address item S1 and also general public comment.
Thank you. Yes, you will have 2 minutes.
Okay. I oppose the mandatory government orders for all persons to take the COVID vaccine. I'm not opposed. I want to make it clear that I'm not opposed to vaccines, and I myself take any vaccine that I feel is appropriate for me, which covers everything. But I don't feel that the order from the government to ingest any substance, the order by force, is correct. It violates the freedom of individual choice, and this kind of order was not done during other pandemics. Now, for example, there was the polio pandemic, which I was a child when that happened, and everyone wanted the vaccine, but there was no order from government to take it. I believe this kind of an order exceeds the legitimate use of governmental power. And that's what I wanted to address.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Bobby Crawford, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Yes, good morning. Yes, good morning, Board of Supervisors. I want to address item 15, a testimonial. I'm a cook at Animal Valley Rehabilitation Center. I'm with AVRC and SEIU 721. I just want to say out with a brief testimony how valuable Animal Valley Rehabilitation Center is to the community. As you know, as I know, for each client that goes through the program, they have a work period program. Part of that program is them working in the kitchen. And just to let you guys know, there's a good secret when they came to the kitchen. As they come through the program, we teach each client a good job skill where they can go out in the community and get a job so they can feed and take care of their family. And I've been there for the past 10 years, and every time I go out in the community and I go to my local store, the best pleasure I get out of that for doing what I did for these clients, training them to become a job skill, is that when they introduce me to their family and thank me personally for showing them a skill where I train them where they can become a better father, husband to their family, and where they can take care of the kids and feed them. So I basically urge that Board to reconsider the non-closure of AVRC because it's a vital landmark community. We have so many people. I have for the past 10 years I help hundreds and I train hundreds of clients because to have a job skill, they can feed their families. And that's the best part about me being a county worker, what I've done for these clients that came through the program. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
David Malkin, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Thank you. I'm addressing items number 2 and number 69. Today I'm speaking as both a Roland Unified School Board member, District 4, and as a licensed clinical social worker in strong opposition of agenda item number 2 and a yes on agenda item number 69. As written, agenda item number 2 would require the Sheriff's Department to come to the Board of Supervisors for approval for each individual school extension contract with an SRD as of June 30th, 2022. It would take it out of the hands of local control. It is not just data collection that is being requested. Many people think that item number 2 is this data collection, but it is not. I can tell you by experience that Roland Unified has had fewer behavioral problems and citations issued to students since we changed from a school-based police department to contracting for an SRD, school resource deputy. The study cited in your resolution specifically stated it did not address the hiring process and the effects it has on the implementation of an SRD on campus. When selecting an SRD, we in Roland actively partner with our local LASD stations and seek out an individual that would have the same traits as our teachers or counselors, one that's compassionate, a mentor, and supportive. If the right officer is selected, that can build a bridge so badly needed between students and police. The fear of police is common amongst us all. Frequently we receive minorities that are victims of police misconduct when the individual is pulled over or confronted by the police. That positive experience on the school campus setting would transfer and enable students to cope with this fear and avoid getting into a negative situation. The focus of community policing is to create a positive image of the police. What better way to do this than to start it in the public schools? Please vote no on item number 2 and yes on item number 69 and keep the control within the local jurisdiction of the school boards. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Susan Anderson, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Thank you. My name is Susan Anderson, and good morning, Board of Supervisors. I'm a resident of Supervisor Solis' District 1. I will be speaking on 2 others, 6 in favor, 18 in favor, 26 opposed, and 69 opposed, and also general comment. On number 2, law enforcement on campus is the opposite of a Care First County. Schools are where a Care First vision begins, where we can invest in our youth through mental health support, education, dance, theater, art, and care. The Board of Supervisors should pursue a Care First vision for our schools. No law enforcement on campus, no matter how much data is collected or how transparent LASD is about their violence. On item number 6, why do we choose to criminalize mental health? People with untreated mental health needs are 16 times more likely to be killed during a police encounter than other civilians. Although people with untreated mental health needs make up 1 in 50 in U.S. adults, they are involved in 25 to 50% of fatal police shootings. The stark disparity means that expanding PMRT capacity to respond to these situations will translate to significantly less harm caused by police. Number 18, SB 98, as amended, will infringe on the freedom of the press, only allowing press access with authorization from a commanding officer gives power to the officers rather than the press. This amendment gives law enforcement the power to decide where and when the press gets access, in turn limiting what they can report on. This is not free press, it's censoring the media. Item number 26. The Inspector General's report on LASD oversight and reform efforts from January to March 2021 reveals that the LASD received 268 service and personnel complaints. There were 5 deputy-involved shootings this quarter, with 2 of them being fatal. And in this quarter, 15 people in LASD custody died. Very little information was released about the circumstances of these individuals' deaths. The Sheriff's Department continues to be the primary driver of liability costs for Los Angeles County. Of the $148.5 million Los Angeles County spent on liability in fiscal year 2018 to 2019, the Sheriff's Department was responsible for 55% of those costs, totaling $81,485,430. Additionally, the county paid $60.4 million for 240 LASD settlements. The county's most expensive settlements all involve Sheriff's Department misconduct. At this board meeting alone, the settlements by LASD total over $2 million. And on item 69...
Your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Matt Pierce, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, and whether you will address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Matt Pierce, and I'm speaking as the president of the Media Guild of the West, the News Guild CWA local that represents unionized journalists at the Los Angeles Times and several other newsrooms in Southern California, Arizona, and Texas. I'm also a reporter at the LA Times, and I live and work in District 2. I will be speaking in support of item 18 and providing a general comment. As journalists, we don't normally get involved in politics, but over the last 2 years, my profession has witnessed the disturbing deterioration in law enforcement's treatment of journalists who are on the job covering protests, demonstrations, and civil unrest. In recent months, there have been a series of high-profile local incidents that have alarmed many of us as working journalists. These incidents include the LA Sheriff's Department's mistreatment of KPCC reporter Josie Wong and the LAPD's unwarranted detention of several journalists at Echo Park Lake, including my colleague James Quealy of the LA Times, who is also a member of my union. After these incidents, an unprecedented coalition of press associations, media unions, and advocacy groups representing thousands of rank-and-file journalists across California have come together to protest the treatment of our colleagues, not just at mainstream news organizations like the LA Times, but also independent journalists, freelancers, student journalists who have the same First Amendment rights we do and the same concerns for their on-the-job safety. I would like to thank Supervisor Solis for introducing a motion to push for a stronger SB 98, which my union and our coalition supports. This bill is introduced with modestly extended basic protections against arrest for journalists covering protests and other civil unrest in California. But a recent amendment by the Senate Appropriations Committee would have required journalists to get a police commander's permission to enter closed areas around a protest in order to do their job. This is wrong, and many senators who originally supported this amendment know it's wrong and have since publicly withdrawn their support. We encourage the Assembly to remove the amendment and pass the clean bill. I would thank the Board of Supervisors for the support. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
And as a reminder, to address the board, if you've not already done so, please press 1 then 0 at this time. Do not press 1 then 0 a second time, or you will be removed from the queue.
We will now hear the Spanish interpretation of this reminder.
Como recordatorio, para dirigirse a la supervisora que aún no lo ha hecho, presione 1 y luego 0 en este momento. No presione 1 y 0 por segunda vez o será eliminado de la fila.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Again, Eric Previn, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin, sir.
It's Eric Previn, and I was speaking about the private security as a possible solution for safety in schools, that's item 39. And then I was also talking about how I thought that the press item, support for Senate Bill 98, was ironic, and though it's nice that you called me back today after blocking my comment, accidentally or inadvertently or whatever, you never do that unless Matt Pierce and the real journalists in America are listening, and they're appreciative for this item. This is an item that is about making it clear that people who report and inform the public have access and that are not blocked by law enforcement, which is critically important. And it was amended to make it less effective last minute, and all of the state assembly members voted for it, or the senators, one or the other. It goes to one first and then the other, including Ben Allen. And then people made a hue and a cry, and it's come out, and they're going to try. And now the great leaders of the county and the state are stepping forward to protect journalists' rights. It's very, very touching. But what about the public scrutiny that's afforded by general public comment and all the public comment? The only reason why I even know about this is because I heard people talk about it. We hear one another talk about stuff, and we become illuminated with information, and therefore more powerful, and we help dry up the corruption. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work if the board is allowed to take 4 meetings a week, regular meetings, and turn it into 2 regular meetings with over 100 items on it, so that you can't even comment on the actual meat and potatoes that are also in this agenda. I mean, I'll try, but there's no time left. You know, I talked about the unarmed security guard services. That's that's a very, very important issue about how can we make good jobs for people at the county and not just keep all the good jobs at the county while making a great deal, screwing others by getting people to work for virtually, wages that don't cut the deal. Now, I did note the rent at the tenant protection item, and of course, this is appreciated. There will be a hue and a cry, though, from the moms and the pops in the Barners district. And, we have to find a way not to penalize the small homeowners. We have an organization that I'm spearheading called, I always forget what the names of the organization I'm spearheading because I'm so busy. Something like Small Homeowners in Trouble. We can call it SHIT as a little acronym. And the problem is that we do have a tough time. There are a lot of tenants that need and help support, but the perception that all landlords are corrupt and all tenants are innocent. We have I'll be submitting an article about some of the dirty tricks that tenants play, but I support tenants, and I, as you all know, am a liberal. I'm not so sure about a progressive.
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Greg Bonnet, please state the regular agenda items you're addressing today. Whether you'll address on general public comment, you may begin.
Hi, thank you. Good morning. My name is Greg Bonnet. I'm a staff attorney at Public Counsel and speaking in support of item 81E. We strongly support this motion by Supervisor Solis regarding the county's acquisition of rent debt, potential acquisition of rent debt. We think that exploring new and bold approaches to rental assistance is exactly what this moment calls for. The pandemic highlighted and exacerbated racial and class disparities in our society. And a better approach to rental assistance could help address these disparities and really make a broad, inclusive recovery possible. To do this, they need to address the shortcomings of past rental assistance programs. For example, requiring landlords to relinquish debt in exchange for a fair payment would address the unfair dynamic where a landlord decides whether the tenant's debt is resolved or not. And understanding the fair market value of rent debt would help the county avoid overpaying large corporate landlords that don't really need assistance, letting the county stretch the funds further to resolve all the rent debt, and allowing the county to make more generous payments to small landlords and nonprofit affordable housing providers who really do need assistance. Stretching rental assistance farther to provide more assistance to more tenants could prevent thousands from falling into homelessness and likely prevent
your time
tens
has
of thousands
expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Mark Anthony, Clayton Johnson, please state the regular agenda items you're addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Supervisors. Agenda items 6, B1B, and 7, general public comments. Just want to start off by saying larger for this really critical motion that would expand alternative crisis response for 24/7. Many of us know those moments when we felt like we had no options, when our loved ones were suffering, when they needed help, when they needed support, and there was no other option. And calling 911 certainly was too risky. always has been. And certainly we know that moment when you call the pet team and they ask you, does your loved one have a record? That's a question that would always put a pit in my stomach, because if you tell them yes, their response was, then you got to call 911. And if you tell them no, then they weren't available for hours and hours on end. So this motion today that we urge the board to pass is an absolutely life-saving motion. It is one that is going to be really critical to this effort that we are in right now to close Penn Central Jail. We know that part of the priority is to prevent folks with mental health disabilities from ending up in our facilities, but also to ensure that they get the care that they need and that families get the support that they need. So we urge you to push forward this motion today. Secondly, with regard to item 7, it's really critical that, yes, that we increase oversight of law enforcement, particularly around their interactions and their contracts and their presence in our schools, because ultimately law enforcement does not belong in our schools. I grew up in a generation where it became assumed more and more every year that we had to have police on campus and sheriffs on campus. It became so bad that by the time I graduated college, we actually went back to my alma mater high school and proposed a different solution, proposed trauma counseling and sobriety support for young people, developed a peer mentorship program that I'm happy to say was extremely successful. And young people took their own well-being, their own education, their own many of those young people have become change agents, leaders, and are doing incredible work now because we believed in them as the resource. Those are the folks who are closest to the problem, closest to the issue that we need to be innovating around and innovating with, not the sheriff's department, which has made clear their stance and their position on these issues. And so we're calling on you to support this motion to really raise the bar and to set the groundwork for us to reinvest and think about how we invest in young people and the safety of young people. And lastly, with regard to 81B, again, thank you, Supervisors Solis and Mitchell, for continuing to drive forward this critical motion for restorative care village. It really can't be understated that after almost a decade of work, we're in a moment where we are talking about not building jails, but actually building the affirmative, building the housing, building the services, building out the alternative crisis response, and really the elegance of all these systems that will play into each other and interact with each other and create a Los Angeles that our loved ones deserve from the we're growing up, that we deserve. And so this is an incredible piece of work. It's an incredible motion. And we're asking you today to really ensure that it drives us closer to the closure of Men's Central Jail, that it is rooted in community engagement. We know that
your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Elizabeth Guzman, please state the regular agenda items you're addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Guzman. I'm a tenant in SB2 and a tenant organizer with Beach. And I'm calling in support of item 81E for general public comment. As an organizer, I've heard firsthand the difficulties that tenants have had during this time. People who owe between $7,000 and $28,000 in rent debt and haven't received a dime from the rental assistance program. People who've spent 8 hours trying to fill out their rental assistance applications, have had to make more than 4 calls to figure out where to apply. So we know firsthand that the state rental relief program has not been enough to address the mounting rent debt and ensure our communities remain healthy. With their protection set to expire at the end of the month, hundreds and thousands of LA County residents are going to be at risk of eviction. So I want to thank Eva Solis for introducing this motion to study the feasibility to seize the rent debt. And I urge my supervisor, Holly Mitchell, and all the rest of the supervisors to take full leadership and support this motion. LA County cannot afford to wait on the state. We've been a county that's been rent burdened, that's had a housing crisis for many years before the pandemic hit. So we need to take action now to ensure that tenants, especially those who've been hit hardest by this pandemic, remain housed and are able to recover from this crisis. So we look forward to continuing to work with you all to make a decade recovery something real in LA County. And then for general public comment, I just want to say, as a former student of LAUSD, I do not support police in schools. So I want to say a no on item 69, and yes on item 2. And with that, I close my comment.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Yvette Hale, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Yvette Olay with Dignity and Power Now in the Justice LA Coalition in District 5. I will speak on items 2, 6, 18, 19, 22, 26, 69, 81D, and general public comment. On items 2 and 69, I agree with Mark Anthony Clayton Johnson that those closest to the issue are our young people who have overwhelmingly opposed law enforcement in schools. We know that the school-to-prison pipeline begins with policing of students at their place of learning, a place where young people should be safe from criminalization. While I support the intent of Motion 2 and the aspect of this motion that instructs ODR to report on existing community interventions and supports that reduce the need for law enforcement, it is unacceptable to waste further time and resources collecting data when the research shows that police on campus do not make schools safer and in fact harm Black and brown students, particularly Black girls. The board should instead pursue a care-first vision for our schools. Subjecting children to the violence of law enforcement, even violence with oversight, is reprehensible. I ask your no vote on item 69. Thank you, Supervisor Hahn and Barger, for your motion to expand alternative crisis response. As someone who has supported many loved ones through mental health and substance use crises, I strongly support this motion. We have chosen to criminalize mental health for far too long. People with untreated mental illness are 16 times more likely to be killed during a police encounter than other civilians. I urge your yes vote on this motion. On item 19, thank you, Supervisor Solis and Keel, for standing with immigrant people. With item 19, as a formally undocumented person, this motion is personal for me. Policies that harm immigrants and immigration are policies that harm Los Angeles. On item 22, I strongly support agenda item 22. I know personally that helplessness among women is often a result of having experienced trauma in the form of intimate partner violence or assault. These issues only get worse when women are unhoused, where they are assaulted at extremely high rates, particularly trans women and Black women, which represent a disproportionate amount of those experiencing violence and helplessness. It is essential that they are given permanent housing to prevent further trauma and violence, and that trans women are provided housing by organizations led by other trans people, like the Trans Latina Coalition. On item number 18, I support item 18, freedom of the press is another fundamental right, and SB 98, as amended, will infringe on that right. On 26, the report on the financial status of the sheriff's budget was requested on June 2017, almost 4 years ago, but the CEO has yet to make it available to the public. Angelino's demand transparency from the CEO with a line item allocation report on the sheriff's budget. What we have seen is the OIG's multiple reports which show that the sheriff's department is violent and incapable of reform. We cannot continue to fund their misconduct and murder while shortchanging Measure J and alternatives to incarceration. Please fully fund Measure J in this budget cycle. The Sheriff's Department continues to be the primary driver of liability, costing Los Angeles County millions of dollars, $2 million in this agenda alone. Our communities demand transparency from the CEO and the political will of this board to hold the sheriff accountable through the budget process this year. The Sheriff's Department's risk to both safety and the public and the county's budget requires the CEO and the board to take fiscally responsible action. Lastly, on agenda item 81C, I strong support of this motion. Thank you, Supervisor Solis and Mitchell, for your commitment to a care-first vision in this master planning process for alternatives to incarceration in District 1. We want to see this iterated throughout the county. We applaud the development of physical infrastructure that addresses mass incarceration and helplessness crises, and believe that the county should not stop here. Thank you so much. I yield my time.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Doug Forbes, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. There are two of us here registered to speak in support of the same three agenda items, number 13, 20, and 21. We would both like to speak to all three at once to save time for all of you, and we will keep our comment under 4 minutes instead of 6. Thank you, Supervisor Solis and Supervisor Barger, for authoring the motions on two critical issues about which we have engaged you for over the previous 18 months.
And thank you, Supervisors Hahn, Kuehl, and Mitchell for your time and attention today. My name is Elena Mattias. I am co-founder of Meow Meow Foundation.
My name is Doug Forbes. I'm also co-founder of Meow Meow Foundation. Our nonprofit is hell-bent on eliminating childhood drowning and improving camp safety for millions of children, countywide, statewide, and nationwide. While we dearly appreciate being in your midst at this moment, candidly, it's the last place we want to be. We should be cuddled up with our beloved 8-year-old daughter as we plan a summer getaway to show her the incomparable beauty of the Golden State. But we'll never get to do that because Roxy died almost exactly 2 years ago from a barbaric and wholly preventable drowning at an unlicensed summer child care facility, also known as a camp. Our lives, as we knew them, ended that day. However, our fight to prevent other children from these inexcusable outcomes began in earnest that very same day. Let me be perfectly clear when I say that preventable drowning in unlicensed California camps equate to nothing less than health and safety crises. Drowning is the leading cause of injury death for kids. Unregulated California camps yield catastrophic consequences, including injuries, deaths, and sexual predation. Nobody in Los Angeles County can properly estimate the toll that preventable drowning takes on our community. Nobody in Los Angeles County can say how many camps there are, how many kids attend them, and how many incidents occur. Yet we do know how many food trucks LA County DPH inspects. And even though the state chooses to not require licenses for day camps, the county is not prevented from doing so or from inspecting overnight camps the way they need to be.
Shockingly, LA County DPH only learned of our daughter's drowning because an EHS official happened to have watched the nightly news. The pool where Roxy drowned was found to have 9 violations, and the county finally inspected the pool 5 days later. Imagine what could have been revealed if first responders immediately connected with DPH and the, quote, lifeguards who tended to the pool that were not properly trained or certified. The Red Cross has since revoked their credentials based on our findings. Due to the severity of the circumstances when our daughter drowned, 2 mandated reporters filed suspected child abuse reports. The camp owners said they wanted to keep the day, quote, as normal as possible. But nothing is normal about the fact that neither the county nor the state could shut the camp down. Nothing is normal about the fact that counselors do not have to be trained, certified, or background checked. Nothing is normal about the fact that daycare facilities with finger canning and sing-alongs are highly regulated by the state, when camps with high-risk aquatic referee zip lines and sheer rock walls operate under the radar. During the pandemic, schools that the county deemed unsafe exploited this loophole and were able to operate as camps. Camps charge families thousands of dollars, while counties charge them nothing to operate. Yet camps rely upon county-supported emergency services to respond to injuries and deaths. An entire child care industry that serves millions of children operates like the wild, wild west. Counties have also endured the financial burden of costly settlements from preventable drownings at public facilities, including county-operated camps.
What we can do and what we will do through the passage and enforcement of these 2 motions before you today is gather long overdue information, properly assess the issues, and effectively mobilize proper resources to eliminate preventable outcomes. Thank you for your support on AB 768, which will afford critical drowning prevention policies and resources to over 6 million California students. And sincere thanks for your time, and we dearly hope that all of you will support these measures.
Thank you. Can we have the next speaker, please?
Josie Wong, you state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'll be providing general comments and also speaking on item 18 about protecting the press from law enforcement interference and harassment during constitutionally protected activities. I am a public radio reporter in LA, and today I'll be speaking independently of my employer. This past year, I've reported for more than 24 protests, vigils, and rallies. They've been organized across the ideological spectrum, from Black Lives Matter to Make America Great Again. And they span the county from Beverly Hills to Palmdale to the steps of LA City Hall. And I've been so proud to help document our country's reckoning with race, racism, and police violence in what, on top of everything else, was a pivotal election year during a pandemic. But I have to say it has come at a cost. In the last year, journalists covering protests in LA County have experienced injury, detention, arrest, and or attempted prosecution by law enforcement. As I've reported before, I was arrested after a protest in Linwood last September. A group of LA County Sheriff's deputies followed several protesters as they retreated down a public street. Using the Zoom on my phone, I reported an arrest. I was tackled, later taken to jail, and unable to continue reporting. Journalists need to do their jobs without threat of arrest or bodily harm. The stakes are even higher for independent and student journalists who don't have reinforcements or large newsrooms to fall back on. Journalists of color also understand that they face a greater risk reporting at protests. In LA County, they have disproportionately borne the brunt of injury at the hands of law enforcement. Their equipment, their reporting tools have been damaged or disappeared. We journalists are just trying to be the public's eyes and ears. That's why we got into the business. If we don't ensure a free press, a free media, and protect the First Amendment, this affects everybody. Transparency and accountability suffer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Joseph Maislich, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisors. Items 31, 32, 71, 71E, and 81D. We're dealing with, in trying to support the changes that you and some of the mixed community and county official work groups have come up with. We're dealing with trying to reverse 40 years of diminution in public funding and also greater inequality, so there are so many more people who need support to get their needs met. This is what we're dealing with here: housing, health care, so much more. We, for this land use issue, on homes in 31, 32, we need social impact reports on which to base all of these land use and housing resource decisions. Social impact report. That should go along with the environmental impact report. Then, rather than negotiate with builders over money payments or a small number of questionably affordable units, how about a housing program based on critical needs, as analyzed in accordance with the various needs in mind? We as a community have the right and the obligation to demand enough of society's wealth from wherever it is to create and support such a program, including the analysis, the results of the analysis on 71E. Another point, I've been told that some communities forbid even the trade of getting building permission for some percent of affordable units. I think Santa Clarita is one. If that's true, how about the board standing up for your anti-racism initiative and the potential new anti-poverty initiative where they really count, and working to undo the class and, in fact, race exclusion as unfolded in Santa Clarita? And if that's correct, then Supervisor Barger, you're in a very good position to tell that community the truth. Otherwise, if you don't deal with those things, the county's housing and equality program will be trying to mitigate with one hand, but the result of what land policy is irrigating with the other. On 81D, the county's implementation of its shift of programs and services would care first means change for its workforce, such as provided for by this motion. Very good. But as with all the board's creative initiatives...
Excuse me, your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Lynn Flambeck, you state the regular agenda items you're addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
This is Lynn Flambeck, Santa Clarita Organization for Planning and the Environment, and I'm speaking on items 31, 32, 71, and public comment. And we're opposing this project because of the decimation of 23 mature oaks on the property. And there's got to be a better way than cutting down oak trees. Mature oak trees sequester carbon. We need to address global warming, and one of the ways to do that is by not cutting down trees. There has got to be a way of designing homes around the trees and including them in the project themselves so that they aren't lost and all their resource benefits are not lost. And I believe that has to start in the planning department when the project is first proposed, and I'm wondering if there isn't some way that the board can suggest to the planners that this change be made, that they look at how many trees can be saved instead of unilaterally and always allow trees to be removed. So anyway, I just am speaking up for the trees again and ask that your board and the planning department start doing the same, because we all need this help to stop global warming. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Roy Humphreys. Please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Just speaking on, this is Roy Humphreys on D2, 2, and the big 6, 7, and to the comments about the deputy on the campus there, and outsourcing. Outsourcing is just a fact of life, and nobody, or few people, cried out when the president of UC System California sacked the entire IT department and brought in contractors from India. And also, as far as the press situation, it's entirely in keeping with President Biden's border policy as far as the press goes. And on part 2D, we have the federal allocation of funds. It should include the critical widening of Fullerton Road, Colima, and the freeway, and Roland Heights. On the public comment, the supervisors have legalized marijuana but are in denial of the 4 essentials of human condition by clogging the courts and jails with continued enforcement of Victorian criminal sex work laws. Learn something from Philly DA on PBS. Cease and desist this behavior and work with the state elements to get these laws off the books. Money saved in 1 day could widen Fullerton Road. Learn from Thailand and others that these areas have Turkish baths / massage parlors for both men and women. Thank you.
Thank you. And due to the technical difficulties, the chair will extend public comment until 11 a.m. May we have the next speaker, please?
And as a reminder, to address the board, if you've not already done so, please press 1 then 0 at this time. Now press 1 then 0 a second time, or you will be removed from the queue. Chat Stephen Brantley, please state today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
My name is J. Stephen Brantley. I'm a resident of District 5. I'm speaking in favor of item 6, in opposition to item 26, and making general public comment. I want to thank Supervisors Hahn and Barger for bringing item 6, and as someone who has suffered mental health crises in the past, I urge the board to vote yes on this motion. The expansion of alternative crisis response would save lives on our streets, in our homes, on campuses, and at medical centers where there have been too many wholly avoidable tragedies. We've seen how law enforcement, particularly the Sheriff's Department, responds to mental health crises with fatal consequences. I will echo what you've heard, that despite comprising just 1 in 50 U.S. adults, those with untreated mental health needs are involved in as much as 50% of police shootings, making them 16 times more likely to be killed during a police encounter. This is due in part to the fact that police are not trained to help people in crisis, but to put down disturbances by any means necessary, which too often means deadly force. This is especially true when those in crisis are black or brown and are less likely to have adequate access for psychiatric needs, and more likely to have their needs ignored when they are able to seek help. In addition to being criminalized by law enforcement, they face systemic medical racism that, despite good intentions by most health professionals, denies them care and puts them in jeopardy. BIPOC folks get bounced between law enforcement that punishes them for having needs and institutions that fail to provide care. Left with no alternative, it's no wonder that crises arise. Expanding the scope of PMR teams would break this cycle by getting people the help they need and reducing the risk of law enforcement hurting them. If given adequate resources to be effective, crisis response professionals might completely eliminate police response to mental health crises, and that would save lives. On item 26, I am disturbed to know that a report on the LASD budget was requested almost 4 years ago, but the CEO has yet to make it public. I don't need to tell anyone that the LSD continues to be the primary driver of liability costs for our county, and it's no wonder. Just this quarter, there were 5 deputy-involved shootings, 2 of them fatal, and 15 people died in their custody. The settlement amounts for misconduct and wrongful death are staggering. $81.5 million, 55% of what the county spends on liability. To refer back to my supportive agenda item 6, I fear that continuing to put these bills may compromise the funding of other departments and programs that might well do more to protect and serve our communities than this corrupt and violent sheriff ever will. We must have full transparency with regard to the LASD budget, and in light of the danger that this department continues to pose to our communities, we need to look at drastically reducing their funding in favor of alternatives that don't cost us so much, both in terms of money and with lives. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Mark Gale, you state the regular agenda items you're addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. I would like to speak in support of item 6. My name is Mark Gale. I'm Criminal Justice Chair for NAMI, Greater Los Angeles County, and a resident of District 5. I want to thank Supervisors Hahn and Barger for sponsoring this motion. Gaining access to funds through the American Rescue Plan for Crisis Response is a welcome and essential opportunity. I personally take crisis calls from families all the time, and the frequency of these calls for help continue to increase unabated, and so does the level of severity of the episodes. We need more highly trained clinicians through the Department of Mental Health, PMRT, to answer the mental health challenges in our county. NAMI GLAC urges the Board of Supervisors to support item 6 unanimously. If we truly wish to develop prompt, non-law enforcement responses to mental health crises, rather than waiting 3 to 5 hours or the next day for qualified clinicians, accessing this funding, federal funding, and expanding our non-law enforcement crisis network is just essential, and we need to take advantage of this opportunity immediately. And we also support the funding flexibility that is being considered. Covering the immense geography of our county will take a wide safety net consisting not only of public county resources, but nonprofit resources. It's important we assess...
Your time has expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
Brian Feinbeiner, you state the regular agenda items you're addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, my name is Brian Feinbeiner. I'm a freelance photojournalist. I've been covering countless drug protests in the last year, and additionally before then as well, around racial inequality and other related events in the last year. I've had multiple interactions with the Sheriff's Department and LAPD where we have been inhibited, photojournalists and other journalists, from conducting our job of observing law enforcement working around citizens. If the item in the state senate were to go through with the amendment that limits our ability to freely work without receiving permission from an incident commander, it would severely inhibit our ability to accurately and fairly report on what is happening out in the streets. I urge supervisors to approve the item 18 and opposing the additional language in the item. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Andre Zimbeck, you state the regular agenda items you're addressing today and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Yes, hi, good morning. This is general public comment, and it's specifically addressed to Supervisor Barger because my property is located in her district. I need her help in contacting the planning department. I've been able to reach them for months concerning my property, which is landlocked and has no legal access for ingress and egress. And curious as to why the planning department issued a permit back in 1986 when this building was built for the property if there is no ingress and egress. So I reached out to Emily in her field office several times. She could contact Emily for my contact information, and the supervisor could help me getting in touch with the planning department. They don't want to seem to help, and that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Jacqueline Stone, you state the regular agenda items you're addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Chair Solis and members of the board. My name is Jacqueline Sung with the Beach Beach Health District, and I'm here to speak in favor of items 6 and 8. I want to support item 6 and Supervisor Hahn's proposal for expanding psychiatric multiple response team network, and we applaud her leadership in being an advocate for the mental health needs of Angelinos. We believe that this proposal will work to find mutual solutions and build partnerships, and also secure the resources that are needed to ensure that more people have access to these important services 24/7. And as a health district, we stand by and ready to collaborate with the county and support motion here in the South Bay. In addition, I also wanted to support item 8, which Supervisor Hahn's work to champion environmental health and justice by addressing the detrimental impacts of hexavalent chromium and the communities that are most impacted by the emission exposures through these processing facilities. I speak in support of the letter to the California Air Resources Board to adopt regulations and phase out the use of this metal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Zachary Boyle, you state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning, Supervisors. Zachary Warma with the Downtown Women's Center, calling today in strong support of item number 22, supporting unhoused women and families in Skid Row. This motion, authored by Board Chair Solis and co-authored by Supervisor Mitchell, is nothing short of a historic first step towards permanently ending homelessness for the 655 unsheltered women and families living in Skid Row. Drawing on our 43 years of history of lifting women out of homelessness and on a path towards personal stability, UWC has developed the Every Woman Housed Action Plan that, with the support of this board, can realistically end unsheltered women's homelessness in Skid Row. The action plan is a combination of both short and long-term solutions that deploys mobile-based interventions to quickly get women off the streets while ensuring these exits are permanent via housing and targeted services. Women in Skid Row are disproportionately Black and survivors of trauma, so this plan directly combats the gendered and racial inequities that are at the heart of women's homelessness. On behalf of UWC and 5,500 women we serve each year, we wish to extend our deepest thanks to Supervisors Solis and Mitchell for their extraordinary leadership on this motion, and we ask the support for an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Laura, call ahead. Please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Laura Caholen, and I'm a resident attending in District 2 and an organizer with La Defensa, White People for Black Lives, and the Justice LA Coalition. I would like to speak on agenda items 2, 6, 18, 19, 22, 26, 69, 81B, and general public comment. I support agenda items 6, 18, 19, 22, and 81B, and I vehemently oppose agenda items 26 and 69. I'd like to voice my support for agenda item 6, the expansion of psychiatric local response teams, and thank Supervisors Hahn and Barger for their motion to expand funding to these PMRTs. When thinking about why it's a necessity to expand PMRTs, I want to uplift the name of our stolen community member, Rosario Max, who, while in the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall, was killed while laying face down during a mental health crisis. His family continues to fight with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles and other organizations for justice in his name, but for someone other than police or law enforcement who responded to his mental health crisis, who still be with us today. I'm also thinking of our stolen community member and loved one, Christopher DeAndre Mitchell, whose life was stolen by police in the shower, 24-hour fitness on Sunset Boulevard, and others, David Orgaz Jr., Charlena Lyles, who was killed in 2017 when having a mental health crisis. We need to ensure that public safety mobile response teams are available at all times of day and night to ensure that our Muslims and community members who need specialized mental health support without violence can get it without violence, suppression, and control. And that community members have a choice about whether to call for support without having to risk criminalizing loved ones or other members of their community. In response to agenda items 2 and 69, I want to thank Supervisors Kuehl and Mitchell for putting forward a motion for greater oversight of school police, and yet encourage the board to go much further and completely remove any sort of law enforcement from school campuses. I echo the sentiments of others who have given public comment today, like Susan Anderson, Mark Anthony St. Johnson, and Vet LA, for outlining the harms of school police. I support agenda item 2, but I do not think that more oversight is the sole answer. As Vet LA said, oversight of violence is unacceptable. We need to completely remove law enforcement from Los Angeles County schools. I oppose agenda item 69, continuing the use of law enforcement in schools. of Los Angeles, and I taught in school in District 2, zip code 90011, where $1 Million Hood was reported in the Policing Our Students report that this zip code was most heavily criminalized by law enforcement of any school police in any zip code in the year that report came out. When I was teaching, our babies, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, were criminalized, and many were removed from our school campus in handcuffs after being criminalized for survival acts due to life circumstances that were completely out of their control. What's more, this criminalization would not have happened in a predominantly white school district. However, Black, Brown, and Indigenous students in South Central are constantly being subjected to traumatization and criminalization. This was absolutely traumatizing not only for the community members who were criminalized and their loved ones, but also for all of their fellow students who had to witness our students being taken from the community violently and with no explanation. So to this end, I vehemently oppose.
Just kind of explain. May we have the next speaker, please?
Ms. Nelson, please state the regular agenda items you're addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Dempsey Nelson from Hermosa Beach. I'm calling in support of item 8, support for California Air Rule to phase out hexavalent chromium. I urge the Board of Supervisors to send a 5-signature letter to the California Air Resources Board in support of phasing out hexavalent chromium operations in existing facilities and prohibiting its use in new facilities. I also want to thank my supervisor, Supervisor Hahn, for her longtime efforts to eliminate the use of this cancer-causing chemical and for always standing up for the planet, for social justice, and especially for our underserved communities. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Joseph Haxon, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Please begin.
Hi, my name is Joseph Jackson. I'm representing 15, and that is ABRC, the bill to keep ABRC open. ABRC is the last house on the block. I am a product of my environment. I am also a member of Recovery, and the recovery world has not been notified that ABRC is shutting down. ABRC has helped hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people throughout the year. I, as an employee, as a counselor of the ABRC, I have encountered several former clients who are out there dying right now. They're dying because they cannot be accepted into other programs. I have worked at such programs such as PIP, which shut down and left a very large vacuum. I have worked for Tarzana Treatment Center, who only has 50 indigent beds. We need ABRC up here in Squad 1 and 2. We cannot survive without ABRC. There are people dying. We're talking about homelessness and the opiate epidemic. Well, we have one of the largest recovery facilities in Southern California being shut down because of a budget. What's more important, the budget or lives? Thank you.
Thank you. May we have the next speaker, please?
Devon Watson, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, and whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, I'll be speaking on item 81E. My name is Devon Watson, and I'm from District 2. I support the debt-free recovery platform to keep LA housed. And as a research on health, youth, and community organizer, I want you all to vote today in favor of 81E, and also take into account that rent, back rent, and financial hardships are a strong leading cause of homelessness. And the state rental relief programs have left many tenants behind because applications are complicated and landlords have all the power. Thousands of tenants still have debt, will continue to accrue debt, and will have to live with the long-lasting impacts of this crisis. There needs to be more on-the-ground support for tenants if you all truly care about combating homelessness, mental health, and wellness challenges. So many people need support in our communities, and the average estimated rent debt per household is close to $7,000. I support item 81E to conduct a feasibility study to see these event just, and believe that it is a great action to address this unprecedented crisis and ensure all of us can recover from this economic crisis and global pandemic. I urge the board to support this motion and commit to the
expired. May we have the next speaker, please?
keep LA healthy.
Juanette Cullors, please state the regular agenda items you are addressing today, whether you'll address on general public comment. You may begin.
Hi, I'm supporting number 269, general comment. My name is Juanette Cullors. I'm from District 5. I am a trustee for the Keppel School Board District in the Antelope Valley and a councilwoman for the Little Rock Town, and a long resident and WPI alumni. I am today speaking in regards, I'm also a co-chair for Cancel the Contract. We are asking that you support motion 2 by Supervisor Molly Mitchell, strengthening oversight and law enforcement services. While we understand this motion does not achieve our ultimate goal and not renewing the Antelope Valley Union High School District contract with the LA County Sheriff, we believe oversight by the County Inspector General and the 90-day waiting period provides meaningful steps toward more accountability over the sheriff's role in our schools and communities. The motion also relates to the data collection is also very important so that we can have this time an opportunity to inquire about the impact of our police embedded in our children's schools. There is a need for the voice of the Antelope Valley to be heard and considered when looking at this motion. This is a county-wide issue, but it relates to the Antelope Valley. Please note, our valley has 29 of these contracts with LA County Sheriff, more than the entire LA County combined. Black students make up 16.7% of the student population for our high school district, yet we receive over half of law enforcement contracts. This data was provided by LA County Sheriff contractor reporting system as mandated. It would be expected for the black students at 60.57 of the Antelope Valley population to receive about 16.7 of suspension. Instead, they receive 43.6% of suspension, over 260% higher than the expected share. White students are comparing category, where 12.3 of the population receive only 6% of the suspension. That's 205% lower than expected shares of the California Department of Education. The current design is designed for a pipeline to prison. Our supervisor voted last winter to invest $75 million in youth justice reimagined. We have done the work to build a new future for our youth development and school discipline and safety. This county must reinvest the broken system of criminalization of our students. In closing, I ask that you vote in favor of the motion. Support being on the right side of history. Let's imagine our children as a priority with professionals, therapists, counselors, students, and nurses, as opposed to continuing to pay the $1.6 million to sheriff. We want them removed from our schools, and we want to be investing in our children. Our mental health, our homelessness, our foster children, all of that is at an alarming rate of LA County. So please support this initiative, and thank you for the supervisors for putting this on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that concludes the allotted time for public testimony.
I want to thank everyone for providing your comments this morning. I realize that we had some technical difficulties, and I did extend the time 20 minutes. And I do want to encourage all the individuals that were unable to provide your comments that you can still submit your written comments, and please do so. I would encourage you to do that. And we'll accept them during the time, the duration of this meeting, and that will also become part of the public record. So I want to thank all of you. Madam Executive Officer, will you please indicate the agenda item numbers on which we will be voting?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The following items are before you. SD 1, 1D through 4D, 1P, 1, 3, and